Hello, my beautiful friends. I don't know that I'll record tomorrow night because tomorrow night is Maundy Thursday, and I think I've mentioned in a previous video that I'll be doing a service. That service is called Tenebrae, and then it's followed by a self-reflection period. It takes place at midnight, so I do actually have to work on Friday. I used all my FMLA, took up all my vacation time, so I don't actually have any vacation days, but Tenebrae happens at midnight, and it's a service of shadows. So you have 15 candles, 14 for the followers of Jesus, and then one large one representing Jesus. And you read different passages, and as you read the passages, you blow out the candles so that you end up in darkness, and at the end there's a loud sound. And it sort of kicks off this 3-day Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday. There's a name for that. I can't remember what it's called. There's a name for those 3 days. The triad. I don't know. Whatever it's called. But it sort of, solidifies the holiness of those 3 days. So what's significant about Maundy Thursday? What's significant about Tenebrae? Why do we do this shadow? And you do communion, like your own communion. I'll have wine and I'll have bread here. So it is the Last Supper, right? It's the last night Jesus is with his followers. They're together, and he says, like one of you is going to betray me. And he knows which one it is, and they're all like, oh my gosh, is it going to be me? Can you imagine that conversation? Like, I know one of you is going to be turning me into the authorities, because, I've been watching John's channel about the mafia. Could you imagine a mafia dinner where, I don't know, the head guy is like, oh, one of you is going to betray me tomorrow. And I mean, I think in the mafia, they probably shoot that guy right there. But, could you imagine that? Like, he knows who's going to, rat him out. But he's like, let's have this dinner, and we're going to have this bread and this wine. And, depending on your religious tradition, you either believe it's the actual bread, the actual body and blood of Christ, or you believe it's representation. But so you do that service, and then it ends in darkness, and then you sort of leave quietly, and then I'll leave quietly and go do my reflection. Obviously with light, because I can't read in the dark. So I think I'm looking forward to the service, because I do, not looking forward to it in like the, like we're going to have cake kind of way, like I get excited over brownies. But really, it's, to me, one of the most meaningful nights of the Christian year. Because the thing about Easter is that it is what makes Christians Christian, right? Like, if you don't believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus, then you think maybe Jesus is a nice guy or a prophet, but, that actual death and resurrection is what binds Christians together, no matter what their denomination. I think it's interesting. The book that I've been studying, that I've been reading the past 2 days, this is such a fabulous book, in case you're interested in Celtic Christianity. It's so good. It's called Listening to the Heartbeat of God, and it's by J. Philip Newell. I recommend this book. You can get it from the Iona bookstore. You can get it from thrift books. You can get it anywhere. And really, it's just interesting. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. I hold a bachelor's degree in English and a bachelor's degree in communication with a minor in philosophy. So I'm very interested in philosophy. Druidry, in the way I practice it, it is a philosophy. So Druids do not have a, it's not a religious practice in and of itself. There are religious Druids that make it religious. It's more of a craft, kind of like witchcraft is a craft. Druidry is a thing you do, like forestry, right? Like, it's a thing you do. And so the thing that binds all Druids is this connection to nature, right? But it's not religious. It's definitely philosophical. So this book is about sort of, there's so much to say about it. I could do a whole video just about this book, but it's talking about sort of how Celtic Christianity came about, and kind of where it split off from the Roman Catholic Church. And it's such a fascinating story. So St. Patrick and St. Columba, in the Isle of Iona, right? And St. Bridget too, so they're Celtic Christians. And so he talks about, like, Celtic Christianity, is very, very old, right? It's very old. It's as old as the Roman Church, right? But why did the Roman Church get more votes or popularity or whatever? And it's because there was a disagreement between Augustine of Hippo, St. Augustine, however you pronounce it, and then Pelagius. And he was the Celtic Christian. He was from Britain. So they got them together, and they the big disagreement, there were a few disagreements. One of them being that in the Celtic Church, in the Celtic tradition, in the Celtic culture, men and women have always been equal. They have different jobs, but both could be warriors, both could be leaders. Men and women have never been, and that was cultural in addition, to religious. It was just culturally they were equal. And obviously not the same case in the Roman Church, right? Where women couldn't be priests and things like that. And then the other thing, sort of a fundamental principle, and something that they attacked Pelagius for, is that Pelagius believed that babies were not born sinful, that they are born as an image of God, and that we are all God in us, and there's no original sin, that Adam and Eve paid for that. They paid for that, their sin. They got kicked out of Eden. That was their punishment. But babies, because babies come from God, all things come from God, trees, animals, everything comes from God. We are all representations of God. Well, Augustine didn't like that. He didn't like, him going around telling people that. And so they banished him, excommunicated him, and then he went back to the Celtic world. Now, Ireland, interestingly enough, was never under the Roman Church, ever. They eventually became Roman Catholic over time, but they were never invaded by the Romans. So they held, Patrick, and, they held these Celtic spiritual beliefs in addition to, then once the Roman Church came through, some of those beliefs, but they were so far away, they kind of were able to do their own thing. But in the church, and I remember this because I went to a Catholic college, there's always sort of this battle between Pelagius and St. Augustine. So it's an interesting book, but what I love about it is that the Christian church, the Celtic Christian church, is all about listening to the heartbeat of God. And that's the name of the book. Listening to the heartbeat of God. And that is the heart of Celtic spirituality. And I love how Newell says, it isn't, so there's been recently a revival in Celtic spirituality, in the New Age movement, and that is absolutely the truth. But it's been around forever, right? It's, thousands of years old. It's not, it was created right, in, 200, BCE. It's neither dead. It's never been dead. It's always survived. But it's also not New Age. It's really, and the real difference between Celtic spirituality, because the Anglican Church is apostolic in the same way that the Roman Catholic Church is apostolic. They believe in the apostles and the lineage of the apostles, right? But the big difference between the church is that, Celtic spirituality sees God in everything. So in everyone, all animals, all things, trees, everything that God created, and we were all created together to have, to be an expression of God's love in the world, right? The world was created for that, and so we are all expressions of God. So God is within all of us, buried deeper in others, some more than others, but we are all expressions of God. Where the Roman Church and churches that follow that pathway believe that you have to go to church to get the gifts of Spirit. You only get the gifts of Spirit through sacraments, right? Birth, baptism, things like that. That, the church gives you what you need for spirituality. Where Pelagius says, we have everything that we need for spirituality. You go to church so that you learn how to use those tools. Fascinating book so far. Fascinating book. So, and there's a whole discussion Pelagius talked about, it's the one example that Pelagius talks about is you can be wealthy and never help the poor. And that will cause more starving than if you were poor and, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have a responsibility, if you're a follower of Christ, if you are living a godly life, to act as if you are, a child or daughter, son of God. Like, and it's just, there's so many fascinating things about this book. I might maybe do a video about it when I'm done. It's a really, really good book, and he lays it out. It's so interesting, how he lays it out. So I'm only through the first 2 chapters, but I will keep you posted. So now we're coming to Maundy Thursday, where we have this Tenebrae service of shadows. And you can go to church to do it. You can go, different kinds of denominations. I think everybody kind of does some kind of service like it. But it's just such a meaningful service, because it really, if you're Christian, it reminds you of the last kind of conversations that Jesus has with people, and sort of how he behaves in the face of people who are mocking him, spitting on him, cursing him. Like, it really, when you really think about, you're at a table with your friends, one of them, which one of them. He could have very well said, like Judas, like, get out of here. Like, you know what you did to me. Get out. That's what we would do. That's what I would do. If you were sitting at my table and I knew you were going to turn me in and I was going to die, I'd be like, get the hell out of my house. Doesn't do that. He's like, this is what has to happen in order to fulfill God's plan. Right? So, and then the next day, like, they're torturing him. They put the crown on, and they're banging his head with the crown of thorns on. I mean, he's in all this pain. People are making fun of him. They're throwing things at him. They're mocking him. They're putting a robe on him and making fun of him. And then they take him, to the court. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to put this guy to death. If you want to put him to death, you all decide that. He washes his hands of it. He's like, I don't want, like, you're killing an innocent guy. So he says he's the king of the Jews. Like, I'm not going to put that on me. What if he is? Oh, no, he's not. And so they vote. And depending on which account you read, talks about the other people that he's crucified with. And, some accounts say that, that he saves them on the cross, and others say that the others mock him. And, but even then, like, he doesn't buckle under the pressure, the immense pain, or the mocking, or anything like that. And his mother is there. And I believe Mary Magdalene was his wife. And his wife was there. And they had to watch, this person they loved so much suffer. And then, if you believe the resurrection story, that when he finally gives up the ghost, like, the whole earth, there's an earthquake, everything goes dark, and everybody's like, oh crap, it was true. Can you imagine that madhouse? Can you imagine that madhouse of people who are like, oh my God, what do we do? They run away, because they are so ashamed of what they've done. And, times really haven't changed in 2024 years, right? Like, we do this kind of thing to people all the time, where we accuse them of stuff, something happens, and they're like, oh, boo, oh, whoopsie, I was wrong. So, again, be careful what you believe. Don't just jump in with the others. Like, decide what it is you believe. Now, do I think I need to go to a church to believe that? No. Do I think the Bible is the unaltered Word of God? No. Do I believe human hands over history? Just reading about Pelagius and Saint, Augustine, so much is political. So much of the church history is political, and how we get things, and how we learn things, and how the service came about. Tenebrae is not in the Bible. It's something you do as a ritual to honor, that brings meaning and, meaning and whatever. But do I have to do it? No. Did I have to, I didn't fast during Lent. I don't anymore. Do you have to do that? No. You don't have to do anything. There isn't anything to do. Because, like Pelagius said, you can say you're a Christian and do nothing. And, you can say you're not a Christian and do lots of good works. Which one is more Christ-like? Which one is more God-like? Right? So, all of these labels that we put on people, and all these things that we say, about people. You know, like one of the jokes that we have right now is, I don't know if you've seen this, and I'm not getting political because, again, I'm not part of a major political party, and I don't care about any of the politicians that are running. However, if you've noticed on Facebook, they're selling this golden Bible that's been sanctioned by Trump. Has anybody looked at this man's past? You know, did he have a conversion experience and I missed that? You know, because I think he's just scamming really good people out of their money and making it look like he's holy. He's got quite the reputation. You know, and not that people can't change, because people absolutely can change, but I don't see evidence of that in his life. I don't see evidence of that life. I think he's just trying to manipulate a group of people. I don't know, just my thoughts. But anyway, so tomorrow night will be the Tenebrae service, followed by the St. Augustine prayer book, which is based on the teachings of St. Augustine. And again, as I've mentioned before, I don't agree with the whole thing. Like, all of the witchy stuff is forbidden. But aside from that portion of it, I think I agree with most things. You know, and it helps you go through, and I'm honest with God, like I think this is bullshit, and I think that's bullshit, and here's why. And, you know, God can correct me and should correct me if I'm wrong. But I find it to bring the most meaning, because it's a very personal, both Tenebrae and the reflection service are both very personal, very connected opportunities, right? And not full of all kinds of frivolous other stuff. So, I am wishing you all the best in light and love. I'm going to put some links down below in case you want to create your own Tenebrae service. And, you know, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be Christian. You can insert other readings from the gods and goddesses that you honor. You can, if you're an atheist, you can do poems and readings from other traditions. I think it brings a lot of meaning to just pause and reflect and think about the world and where we are and what potential we have and where we can go. And I think Tenebrae, Good Friday, and Easter Sunday are really good opportunities to do that, regardless of your religion or practice. So, I am wishing you all the best of light and love. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.